Everyone wants to be stronger, not just physically, but in every part of life. But between confusing workout advice, complicated equipment, and trying to figure out nutrition, where does anyone even start? Well, to get stronger mentally and physically, go to Anytime Fitness. You'll get a personalized training, nutrition, and recovery plan, all customized to your body, your strength level, and your goals. You'll get expert coaching to optimize your results, anytime, anywhere, in the gym and on the Anytime Fitness app. And you'll get anytime access to 5,500 gyms worldwide, all with the right equipment to level up your strength gains and your life. So get started at AnytimeFitness.com. That's AnytimeFitness.com.
Stopping start, attacks the paint, runs it up, it's in the air.
And now, talking all things Boston Celtics.
Where dreams are made of.
The Sports Hub Celtics Show on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Brought to you by Shaw's and Star Market, Delta Dental of Massachusetts, and Corona. Now, Gasper and Murray.
Bad audition, even if you have a triple-double. Clowney missed a three. Shireman has the rebound, and the clock will hit triple zeros, and that will do it. The Celtics, after coming from behind and winning the fourth quarter in Brooklyn on Tuesday, drop the second game in the home and fall back to 500 with Murderers Row starting on Sunday. The final score, Brooklyn 113, Boston 105.
All right. What the hell was this last night? One of, if not the worst teams in the NBA come in here, make the Celtics look like that. There were stretches of that game, they were kind of manhandling the Celtics last night. And so the Celtics lose to the Brooklyn Nets. And after the game, and I don't know if you have it already queued up, B-Rob, Brian Robb covering the Celtics for Mass Live, Sports Hub Celtics Show here on 98.5, the Sports Hub. If you want to join us, 617-779-0985. You have Jaylen Brown calling out the lackluster Celtics effort in this loss.
What's my initial takeaway? Come ready to play or don't come at all. That's my whole thing. We gotta come ready to play. We just went through the motions today. Like I don't understand it.
Went through the motions. Come ready to play or don't come at all. So, look, they had issues throughout the night. They never held a lead greater than 6 points. They sucked from deep, 11 of 34 from three. Derrick White, 2 of 13 in 33 minutes. Is that who he's calling out? Who's he? That's a call out. That's a. I saw Joe Murray tweet about this. Something smells. That quote smells. That's a call out. Who's he going at for this lackluster effort last night?
B-Rob, you were there. If you had to guess, I have my guess. I'll let you go first, though, because you were there with the statement, and I'm curious if you agree with Jim that he is. Do you feel he is calling out maybe a teammate in particular or a couple of guys?
I think it's a bigger group, if you will. The two guys that he praised in his post-game press conference for like the energy and the defense was Hugo Gonzalez and Jordan Walsh. And so I think when those guys came in the game in the fourth quarter and over the course of the game, they brought intensity. That's when the Celtics fought their way back from 18 down to make it close before they fell apart down the stretch again. So those are I think you can cross off those guys, Chris, and then you can kind of pick and choose where you want to go across the rest of the board. There are plenty of candidates, I would say, especially on the bench that gave up a 19-4 run when Jaylen got into foul trouble. Yeah,
I mean, that was the changing point in the game, the turning point in the game when he got that fifth foul and they lost the challenge, and then it's a 19-4 run. I do think that's aimed at Derrick White because when you look at it with Jaylen Brown, they know that with Jason Tatum out, the guys that have to carry the load for this team, the way Joe has decided to manage it are 1-2 has to be Jaylen Brown, Derrick White. And I've talked about this repeatedly. Derrick White has really struggled in that number 2 role. And the way he's played this year, he's been their third best player. Peyton Pritchard has been your number 2. But what happened last night and how poor he was shooting, he smoked a layup late. He's second in the NBA in missed threes overall. The only person that's missed more threes than him is Steph Curry. And Steph Curry's shooting a much better percentage from three. Steph Curry's shooting 40% from three. Derrick White's under 30% now. He's at 29.7. So I think there's a little frustration from Jaylen Brown of, I can't do this by myself, D. White. I need your help. Like, you got to show up. And that was a no-show game for Derrick White. And look, I don't think it was a no-show game from the standpoint of he doesn't care, because we know he cares. And you could say he banged the scores table late in the game. He's frustrated. Yeah. He's frustrated that he's not playing well. But you have to lock in, and you have to be able to perform and have an impact. And we're now essentially a fifth of the way through the season. They're 8-8. They played 16 games. That's about a fifth of the way through the season. And this is the way that Derrick White has played. He has not played anything close to a number 2 for the Celtics. And it's not surprising that when you look up today at the standings, just today, they're outside of even the play-in. They're outside of the top 10 in the East, and that's what it's going to be. And this is the argument I sort of keep getting into with people. It's not about Jaylen Brown. He's been fine as the number. I give him a B+ as the number 1 on the team. That's not why this team is inconsistent and struggling. It's because what has happened is it's not the drop-off from who the 1 used to be to who the drop-off is now. It's the huge, giant, off-the-cliff drop-off from who the 2 used to be, Jaylen Brown, to who it is now, Derrick White, who has really, really struggled.
Yeah, that's who I think the call it is, Derrick White. I mean, it's not, again, he struggled, but also he if you stuck with it and B-Rob, you were there, he missed he was right there. He missed a layup with like 5
really
minutes
bad.
ago. That's one I would be pissed too if I was in Jaylen Brown's shoes. Me like, dude, you're supposed to be better than this. He's my favorite player on the team. It's been frustrating to watch him. I can't believe he's been this bad. So I don't know, what was it? He cares, but why was his head up his ass last night? That felt like to me a call out. Another guy he might be going at, who also I think people have expected more from, Peyton Pritchard, who was hot early. And then what did he have the rest of the game after the first quarter? 4 points or something like that?
I think he had 2 points. Gary Washburn, my colleague, had this in his game story today that combined, if you looked at what Derrick White and Peyton Pritchard did in the second half of that game, they didn't do anything. And the duo of White and Pritchard were combined 4 of 16 from beyond the arc, and they made just 1 field goal in 33 second-half minutes, which was another Peyton – I'm sorry, I'm just scratching an itch here. Another Peyton Pritchard special. This guy is one of the – and he's a good player, and he's having a good – but he's one of the ultimate stat padders. I mean, nobody starts piling up layups and threes after the other team doesn't give a crap anymore this guy does. And so it was a layup late in the game where the Nets were like, go ahead, red carpet to the rim. We just don't want you to shoot a 3. That was the only made field goal from those 2 guys in the second half, and I'm just going to scratch this itch a little bit more. It still goes back to Game 6 last year against the Knicks, and people, I remember like Scal, who's been amazing this year in terms of analyzing these games, but he had to give the Tommy point to someone, so he gave it to Peyton Pritchard. And I was like, okay, I know you got to give it to someone. Do you realize in that game last year, Peyton Pritchard scored all of his points after they were down 30 against the Knicks? All of his points in that game came after they were down 30 points. Like, he does that a lot, and it just annoys me so much. He pads his and it's not like a selfish pat statting. He's just out there playing, but it's like it makes his numbers look so much better than they are in certain games.
I think you guys are hitting the right notes here. The one thing that, going back and watching some of that game last night afterwards and after the press conferences, when they gave up a 19-4 run in the end of the third quarter, pretty much decided the game at that point when Jaylen hit the foul trouble, we didn't see 1 substitution or 1 timeout during that stretch. And so on the floor, it was Pritchard, Simons, Garza, Shireman, and Hauser. And the Nets were just doing whatever they wanted against that guy. So when Joe Mazzulla's trying to preach, we're trying to do chaos this year, everyone's got to be ready. Like, that was a game where it was like begging for go deep into your bench, find something that's working here. So the fact that Gonzalez did not get into that game to the fourth quarter, Minot got benched for the second half again after a dumb turnover at halftime, but Boucher, Tillman, that's when the starters don't have it, you have to search. And that was something in that game where the starters didn't show up, a bunch of them didn't show up, but you didn't search enough across the board to try to win against a terrible Nets team.
For the first time in 2 years, since 2023, Celtics lose to the Brooklyn Nets last night, 113-105. Just a gross game. You want to weigh in on it, 617-779-0985. Who's Jaylen Brown calling out? We'll get more insight on that as we talk to our guy, Chris Forsberg, covers the Celtics for NBC Sports Boston, who joins us next here on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
You're listening to the 98.5 The Sports Hub Celtics Show.
For over 27 years, New England has been winning big with IntraSystems, your power play partner for IT solutions. IntraSystems proudly teams up with Barracuda Networks to bring you the ultimate XDR solution. Just like a goalie in net, Barracuda's XDR platform keeps your network secure, stopping cyber threats in their tracks. Don't let your data get body checked. Trust IntraSystems to defend your business. Whether you're a small startup or a seasoned veteran, IntraSystems has the playbook to keep you in the game. Access, security, trust. IntraSystems.com.
Hey, Hey, it's Beetle here with Amanda Meads from Rapid Flow and her daughter Mia. What's up with these other drain companies claiming they're the best? I know firsthand that nobody can compete with Rapid Flow.
You got that right, Beetle. Maybe a tree root is damaging the sewer line at your home, or you have a backup at your business. At Rapid Flow, we're the trusted name in the industry for no-dig pipelining services.
Check out all of their 5-star Google reviews and do what I did. Call 800-286-FLOW or visit rapidflowinc.com and tell them, Mia.
With Rapid Flow, one call solves it all.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
You want to talk Boston Celtics? This is where you do it. The Sports Hub Celtics Show on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
We need to play with an edge, defensively and offensively. Like, we got to be the harder playing team. That can't be negotiable. And tonight we weren't. Brooklyn was a harder playing team. They played with more of an edge, and they deserved to win tonight.
And seemingly a call-out, Jaylen Brown after the ugly loss to the Brooklyn Nets last night. 113-105 the final at TD Garden. Welcome back to the Sports Hub Celtics Show. And joining us, our guy Chris Forsberg of NBC Sports Boston here on our expert hotline. So hello and good afternoon, Chris. What was that? Who's he calling out? Is it someone specific? Is it Derrick White for a bad night, or is it the team as a whole who was maddening to watch? Bad defense last night that allowed Michael Porter Jr. of all people going off for 33 points.
Yeah, I can live with Michael Porter Jr. It was like Noah Clowney getting wherever he wanted, looking like an all-star. I mean, that Claxton was with a triple-double. Like, there were some crazy numbers. I really like some of the pieces the Nets have, but, yeah, that was infuriating to watch. You know, it's weird because I thought they were so sloppy in Brooklyn that they would be kind of laser-focused last night. And I think that was the frustration, right? Like, that they just didn't have it. And that was the first time it felt like the starter group in particular was kind of lacking. And so I don't know. I didn't think Jaylen was calling anybody out specifically. I think he's frustrated that there had been some good little things happening with this team. And really the starters had been excellent, regardless of who was in that fifth starter role. And last night was the first time that they were a real dud. And I think it's frustrating. Jaylen can't get in foul trouble. He can't have bad turnover nights. The margins are just too slim. So he's put a lot of it on himself when they've been bad or when they've missed opportunities and lost close games. Last night felt like, hey, like that level of compete wasn't acceptable, considering it felt like they were starting to build a little bit of momentum.
I also sort of wonder, Chris, and this is probably less of a question, more of a comment, but maybe why Jaylen was so vocal after that game is the accountability piece of it. Certainly Joe Mazzulla held him accountable in Brooklyn when he wasn't playing well, and he accepted that and came back and bounced back and played well. And now you look at it, I mean, is there a case to be made from that standpoint? Of I gave the stat before you came on that Gary Washburn had in his column today, which was that in 33 second-half minutes, Derrick White and Peyton Pritchard combined for one basket, which was a garbage time layup by Pritchard. Is there maybe a part of this where Jaylen looks at it and says, okay, I get it, you have to hold me accountable because I set the example, but also maybe it's time to start holding some other starter-type guys accountable too?
Yeah, and for sure. And I thought he did. I mean, the fact that Derrick was absent for a long stretch of that fourth quarter, which is like super rare for him. But I mean, he was as off as he's been, and Peyton certainly didn't have a great second half. Yeah, I think it's fair to say, you know, I think Joe, from at least from my vantage point, has been holding pretty much everyone. I do think that Derrick and Peyton got a little rope at the start of the year with missing shots, and you know, Peyton in particular because he was doing other things, and Derrick just because stock numbers were still there, still doing some okay stuff defensively. But yeah, this has festered longer than I thought it would in terms of at least their consistency. And, you know, to see Derrick go from thought he was turning a corner the other night in Brooklyn with that great fourth quarter, and then to be right off the floor is a little jarring, and sort of speaks to where he's at. And I don't know what's going to shake him out of that. You know, like I do think I don't think any of these guys, their confidence gets rattled too much, but certainly you do start hearing it a little bit, and like we're guilty of it. We'll be sitting here, is it the role? Is it more attention? Is he in his own head? It's hard to pinpoint why he's missed so many shots, but it's not just the 3-pointers to me. It's like you look at his paint numbers, that floater hasn't been there. So many of the little things that Derrick does well. So yeah, like if Jaylen is just saying like, hey, we all got to kind of pick it up. We understand what it is here. Like the margins are slimmer. You can't have, everyone has to do their part in order to make this thing work. And but I think it's just been that's sort of what it's been accentuated when in the games they've lost. It's if they let up for even a little bit, if some guy is in foul trouble, if they turn the ball over, it's like they can't get away with so much of what they got away with in the past because they were so talented.
And I'm just going to push back just gently, slightly on the holding everybody accountable thing a little bit, and you can tell me, obviously, if I'm wrong. I feel like Pritchard plays in the fourth quarter pretty much no matter what. And I go back to that Orlando game where Simons had 25 points and Peyton didn't have a great game. It was 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 turnovers. Joe still put him back in the fourth quarter of that game. Last night, he wasn't really doing much. He was, this is not a terrible thing. They weren't good overall, but he was -2 in the fourth. He put him back in that game to play 4 minutes. I kind of feel like Peyton Pritchard, whether he's having a good night or a bad night, Joe puts him back in at the end of the games.
That's interesting. I'll tell you what. I will go back and take a look and see if what jumps out. But just like anecdotally, I would say, like, I guess my mind goes to what was the other option. If you're going to pull Derrick last night and maybe try to tell him like, hey, this level isn't acceptable. Well, what are you doing with your guard rotation there? I thought, I think you guys know I've been yelling for more. It sounds ridiculous. I'm not saying like it's going to tip games but like there are stretches where I felt like they just need energy, and like those Ugo minutes at the start of the fourth were really good. And I just, if I think Joe has a little bit of a blind spot, it's playing the younger players and giving them the chance to play through some mistakes. And he's done that in spurts with, Minot has had his moments of good and bad. And, I do think that if you're going to ride the ups and downs this year, I just like to see them lean into younger player development at times. And so it's been good to see Shireman get a couple chances here lately. And I just think, I'd really like to see them lean into Ugo because if nothing else, he's playing hard and making good things happen. And that was enough to get Jordan Walsh to turn a corner. So if you're telling me like, hey, you might have to replace a couple Peyton minutes with some younger guys and it might get a little sloppy, I think there's a balance at least until those guys get a little bit more on track.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this because if Brown is looking for more energy, more effort, that to me means more Ugo Gonzalez. And I get it, he's a rookie, and it's clear, like you said, to use your words, that Joe has a blind spot for some of these younger players. But under 10 minutes for the last few games, he was a DNP, the last two? Like, he finished, plus 12 in 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. Look, defensively, I would think you'd want him out there. He has to be convinced for more Gonzalez, I would think, going forward after a game like last night.
Yeah, I would hope so. And I think he hadn't played since the Memphis game, which feels like an eternity ago. Yeah. And, I think one of the things that you just have to be okay with this season, and I know over there they want to win, and it's hard not to lean on the more established guys in those spots. But while you want to give every opportunity for guys to get on track or for guys that have earned those minutes necessarily, whether that's this year or past years to get that opportunity, like you can just see there's something there with Ugo. And, I do worry that, you can hit the accelerator a little bit this year, and more so in a way that you can if you're in a season where once Tatum's back and we think this thing's going to jump up a level and be back to competitive, maybe you don't have that luxury. Much like the last few years, like I've kind of understood why Joe hasn't been able to give young guys minutes. It's like you're loaded from your top 8, top 10. Like it's hard to give those guys minutes. But I do think from Ugo to Walsh, and especially like Ugo Walsh lineups, that start of the fourth quarter, they weren't perfect. I think right after Walsh had the putback to get him within 2, he kind of lost the player and gave up the 3. And, that got Brooklyn going back the other way. But I think their energy matters. And I just think it changes the way the Celtics play in those stretches. And if nothing else, it's masking their maybe a little bit of offensive limitations. So there is a balance to that. I fully understand. You can't I'm not expecting him to play 30 minutes. I'm not expecting him to play every night. But I really like when he's out there, what he seems to do. And the fact that they've been willing to throw him on, I think I counted it up the other day. I think he's defended 8 all-star players for like extended stretches. There, from Jaylen Brunson to Cade Cunningham and all that at the start of the year. So I just want to see more of it and see where it goes. And maybe some of more of the flaws get exposed, but that's the stuff we got to figure out.
I'm just listening to the tone in your voice. Is Ugo the new Robert Williams?
Yeah.
We've had the discussion about like if anyone could ever. Minot had, especially when it came out of the gates, with the lawnmower nickname, with the way that he played, with some of his. He had some hilarious quotes over Summer League, and I was like, man, this guy's tracking towards being a fave. I think it starts with having to have the really good nickname. So I don't know what we're doing with Ugo yet. And, maybe that will determine exactly where the fanfare goes. But I have a soft spot, like in the same way that in Gasper knows this full well, where I probably had my own blind spot was turning Marcus Smart's shot selection. If you just play hard and make good things happen and do the winning play thing, I'd probably blind spot on some of your flaws.
No, that's fair. I could just kind of hear it in your voice. This is a quick aside before I get to my question, because I did look it up very quickly. Fourth quarter minutes for the Celtics this year on average. Derrick White's number 1 at 9.9. Jaylen Brown second at 7.7. Peyton Pritchard third, 7.2. So almost as many fourth quarter minutes as Jaylen Brown. My question to you is, and I'm trying to make it positive, Nimi I thought was really good last night with the double-double. 16 points, 12 rebounds. And the only criticism I have of Neemias Queta at this point would just be he has to find a way to stay on the floor for longer stretches, because right now he's third in the league in fouls per 48 minutes. So if he could just stay on the floor longer, he is a difference maker, and he's good. And I thought he was good last night.
Interesting. So maybe I'm overreacting to the fact that he smoked a bunch of layups and his finishing has not been great around the rim. I do agree. Like if you look at the numbers, I think I haven't looked this week, but I assume he was the team leader in on-off rating, net rating overall, and I think he was third in the NBA ahead of Jokic. Like some really crazy things, and it's a small sample, but it showed that good things were happening when he's out there. He's clearly been their best big. Almost to a fault where, and again, with the limitations on Garza and trying to go small and in other instances, maybe with Minot or however you want to play it, it's put a lot of pressure on Nimi. And so when he does run into foul trouble, it gets difficult. I thought he had some tough defensive moments. Clowney, when he wanted to, worked them a little bit. But yeah, I don't want to take away. Nimi's been really, really good, and I guess it'd be unfair if I held, because everyone as a whole last night was not very good. But on the totality, much like in past years where people would be fretting about the depth of the front court and think, oh man, can Luke Cornett fill the third big role, the second big role, whatever it was going to be? I think Nimi has shown he can handle a pretty hefty load up there. And that's from, if you take a step back, the Celtics need to figure out what is the long-term plan at the big man spot. I think you're pretty comfortable that if Nimi can play a role in that, I don't know if he's the long-term solution at starter, but he's going to play a lot of minutes. He's going to be a big part of that. And I've been more encouraged by a lot of the stuff. The question marks coming into the year for me was how would Nimi fit, and who would be the fifth starter? How would these depth pieces work? And I've got more answers from that than I have necessarily for is Derrick White going to figure it out, and some of the questions that I was a little bit more steadfast on.
Chris Forsberg, these next 5 games for the Celtics, they don't see trash until the Wizards on Thursday, December 4th. They got the Magic tomorrow. The Pistons, who are atop the East, have been a big surprise this year. Well, a little surprise. That's a good team. That we saw them on the come last year. But Pistons Wednesday, T-Wolves next Saturday, Cavs, Knicks. What's the record through those 5 games, you think?
Ooh, interesting. So I will say, it's funny because I thought maybe this year it would be different, where every time the Celtics were a double-digit favorite last year, we were like, oh man, this game's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be they're not going to play up to the level of, or they're going to play down to the level of the competition. Through the years, this team has typically played up to competition. Even this year, I would say, I'm trying to think of, besides the Rockets game, which obviously had some extenuating rest circumstances, I suspect we'll see a better version of this team this week. I still think it's going to be difficult. Again, the margin is slimmer. Let's say if I said they were going to go 3-2 in those games, would you take it?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. Considering,
right?
Because I didn't like the game in Brooklyn either. I'm glad you mentioned that, too. I thought they kind of were playing down to the competition the other night, too.
Yeah.
So if they came out of that 3-2, I'd be thrilled.
Right. And so I don't know. I wonder, because then you say, well, if they went 2-3, would you feel any different? You probably would. So I will see how it goes. I think it comes down to, again, this year for me will be very, I'll overreact in the moment if they lose close games, because that's just what I like to do. Yeah. But I'm more, I think when I take a step back and do the process over results, as long as they're showing they can be competitive in those games, if there's like little signs that, all right, if some tweaks to the roster, one big addition of Jason Tatum down the road. Like if I can see the path, then I'll walk away encouraged. But in terms of, my expectations were pretty high coming into the year that they would be better than people thought. I think they're giving away a couple games here that make the record look a little bit worse than it could be. But this stretch will tell us a lot more about where they're at. And they got to take advantage of the fact that they're as healthy as they're going to be around this time of year. They've got to play a little bit sharper, but I am just intrigued to see. I know they all hate the idea of measuring stick games, but this does feel like a little test here where, okay, we're into the season. You've plotted out a few things. How does it look? The Pistons are really good. They're going to be a really, really good regular season team and hopefully better in the playoffs than they were last year. We know what Cleveland is. The Knicks are what they are. Like, this is a chance to show that you're, where you rank among some very, very good teams. It'll be a whole lot better than next week.
And we'll get you out on this just quickly because I heard you mention expectations there. Have you altered your expectations at all for this team based on, what you've seen? And let's say Jason Tatum doesn't come back. How good do you think they are? Do you still think they're securely in the playoff team, top 6? Do you think they're more of a play-in team at this point? Or are you concerned that they're kind of on that line between play-in and lottery?
Yeah, if they're healthy, they should be in the top 6. Now, if Jaylen misses 2 weeks, if Derrick misses time, if Peyton misses time, it gets a lot more tough to be in there. Maybe they're a play-in team. There's just too many bad teams for me to think that they're anywhere near like a surefire lottery team. No, and I leave open the idea that if things go awry, like there's going to be tough decisions to be made in the second half of the year. If it may be more beneficial to lean on the younger players and adjust those goals.
And trade Simons.
But it's fun. Well, and that's a whole another phone call, right? Like, and actually, he deserves a lot of credit because I thought he played his butt off last night, and defensively he was very good. Like in terms of trying, he deserves credit for what he's doing. But so we had Evan Turner in town last night, and he's been on our broadcast last night. He was part of that 2014-15 team where they cycled through 22 guys. They still made the playoffs. They started instilling that winning culture. Look, these guys know how to win. There's a bunch of guys that won a championship. But for me, it just comes down to, are you finding the pieces that are comprising that next team? And that's more important than wins and losses. But I do think they're too good to be a lottery team unless the wheels come off at some point.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him because I saw him in the post game. That is a guy, I still think of that contract he got from Portland to this day.
$70 million, baby.
Does he bow to Brad Stevens when he walks by? I mean, that was one. He was a decent player, but 4 years, $70 million from Portland. I will never forget that as long as I live.
Here's my favorite thing is we're sitting there last night, and so I'm like, oh, here, come over in the media section. And, of course, like a former player, former coach, he's got to be like, I don't want to sit up here with you guys. But he's talking to me throughout the first half, but he keeps peeking over his shoulder, and he sees Brad in the luxury box behind us. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's where Brad sits and all that. I go do our halftime show, come back, and I look up, and there's Evan next to Brad. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's probably a better seat. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Better food, better conversation. I couldn't blame him one bit.
Much like Saudi Arabia with the president, Evan Turner should buy Brad a plane.
Yeah, really. Chris, thanks as always for taking the time. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you down the road.
Right back at you guys.
Right,
talk to you soon.
Chris Forsberg, NBC Sports Boston, covering the Celtics. If you have thoughts on the C's and this ugly loss last night to the Brooklyn Nets, join us at 617-779-0985. It's Casper and Murray.
This is the Sports Hub Celtics Show. We're back to the Sports Hub Celtics Show on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
All right, welcome back to Sports Hub Celtics Show. Let's go to Chris in Hartford, hanging a little bit here. Go ahead, Chris. You're next here on the Sports Hub Celtics Show. What's up?
Hey, afternoon, fellas. Yesterday, you guys, especially Gasper, you forgot about the 2 foul shots Brown missed. And then, once again, 9 years in the league, he doesn't know how to play off-the-ball defense. Porter Jr. went backdoor on him. Those are real big plays, especially from a guy you call a superstar.
Well, he is. I mean, factually, he's a superstar. I mean, let's not act like he's the only superstar that doesn't make mistakes at any time. Is he on Tatum's level?
Yeah,
no.
but
is he on Jokic's
he's been in the
level?
league
No,
for
but
9
he
years,
made all
Gasper.
NBA. Is he? Let me ask you a question. Do you think he's a superstar or no?
No, he's not, because he's deficient. He's off the ball deficient. And the thing is this, the biggest problem we have, Chris, is the guys around him, what you're seeing 14 games in, they don't like playing with him. He makes their job harder. Tatum makes their job easier. But
Tatum
the
does
question
make
I
it
have
easier.
for you is
How
this.
does he make their job harder?
All I heard,
you just don't like
he makes
the guy.
their job harder. That's why
You just
White
don't like him.
they don't like to play with him.
You just don't like him.
No, listen, I like Jaylen Brown as a person, but when it comes to basketball, but the point, my question to you is this: why is it always you?
Yeah.
All I heard out of that first Nets game was Tatum's name about, well, if Brown got benched, what would Tatum do? Why are we talking about Tatum? He's in a boot, buddy. Stick on Brown.
Sure.
Stay on Brown. You can't do it, and
Yes,
that's
I
what the
can.
problem is.
Can I
Just
answer
say
your
you're
question?
wrong.
Are you gonna, Chris? Can I
Go
answer
right
your
ahead.
question, or you're just gonna keep talking?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So
No,
the
go ahead.
reason is because the comparison that you and everybody is doing is now Jaylen Brown is the one. So the natural comparison is, well, what does it look like when Tatum is the one?
No,
And
that's not natural.
It is.
Because
It is.
Tatum, even if, let me finish, let me talk. If Tatum had a game, Missoula would never
By the
pull him
way,
up
we've
because
let you talk
Tatum does
quite a bit.
everything. Listen,
Point's pretty
Tatum
clear.
does a lot of things, even if he's not scoring.
I agree
so
with you. I
he'd be in
agree.
the flow of the game.
Tatum's a better player.
He-
What are we talking about? Tatum's better. That's not an argument. You just don't like Jaylen Brown. Just admit it. You don't like him. You said you like him as a guy, but you don't. The fact that you won't even admit that the guy's a superstar, and he is. And look, there's a lot of superstars who have flaws. I'm not telling you he's Giannis or Jokic or Tatum. He's not. He's not that guy. But what's interesting to me about Jaylen Brown is he gets held to that standard as the one. You want him to make all these guys better. You know, one thing I didn't hear in that call was anything about Derrick White. And I've said this consistently, and I love Derrick White. But if you look at this team, the issue is not how is Jaylen Brown making Derrick White's job harder?
No, he's
Derrick
not.
White is taking more threes than he's ever taken.
Derrick White's had like a no-show season.
Derrick White is making Jaylen Brown's job harder. Now, I will say this. If Tatum were on the team, it would be easier for all of these guys because Tatum is better, and he's a better distributor. I don't debate that in any way, shape, or form. And Tatum and White have a chemistry that he and Brown don't. But I can't tell you how many times this year, it even happened in this game. I watch these games, and Brown, he turns the ball over way too much, which is frustrating. But he'll pass to the corner to White or Pritchard, and these guys don't make three. So it's Jaylen Brown's fault that Derrick White is shooting 29% from three on shots he's made the last 3 years, or that Pritchard isn't. It's his fault. And I know someone will say they're not getting the same quality of shots. They are. They are getting the same open looks. They're just not making them. So how is that Jaylen Brown's fault? I just don't understand that. We're not having a debate about whether Tatum and Brown are on the same. They're not. Jason Tatum's better. He's a better player. That debate's over. I concede that debate. But I think to look at this team and the way they're playing and sort of crap all over Jaylen Brown. And yeah, he missed free throws. I get it. Yeah, that stinks. He's like a 78% free throw shooter. He's not. We're not talking about Shaquille O'Neal here as a free throw shooter. So I just think for people like Chris, those are the people that I talk about a lot when I talk about Jaylen Brown. I just think there are certain people where he's the whipping boy on the Celtics. He just is. He's like the anti-Marcus Smart, where you guys inflated that guy. What's that guy doing on the Lakers, by the way?
What is it?
What's he done since he left Boston?
Nothing.
Has he made any impact in the league? Has
No.
anybody given a crap about Marcus Smart? Has he helped any team do anything? I haven't heard winning plays in so long. So just like you overinflate that guy, the inverse of that is taking away and detracting away from Jaylen Brown and the player that he is as an all-star.
The contract and the exposure show that he is a superstar in the league. You might not like it. Look, Trae Young's a superstar in the NBA.
Yeah, he's a flawed player too.
Trae Young's empty calories to me, but he's a superstar. I'm not going to deny that he is, you know. So you wanted to get to the expectations for this team and have
Yes.
they shifted?
Yes.
And I'll tell you, they have for me. You know, I was kind of lockstep with Felger in that as long as you got Brown, you know, and I expected more, certainly expected more from Derrick White. That should be enough to have you hovering around the middle of the East. Now, the East is also a bit better than I expected. I didn't think the Raptors would be having the season that they're having. Detroit, playoff team last year, and they're well ahead.
How about Chicago?
Right, Chicago. What the hell is that? Although they've dipped a little bit.
Do you realize Josh Giddey is almost averaging a triple-double?
Is he really?
Yes.
So, yeah, my expectations have shifted, Chris. I mean, looking at them this week, and I hated how they played in Brooklyn the other night. I can't get that Utah loss out of my mind. And if Derrick White's not going to be just a bit better, then they're not going to be a play-in team. Yeah, so my expectations definitely have shifted here in the last couple of weeks.
Mine have too. At the beginning of the year, I was wrong. I was way out of whack. I said, and look, it could change when Tatum comes back. But let's say Tatum doesn't come back, and that's what I built my original prediction on, so I'll be consistent with it. I was like 49 wins, 4th seed. And pretty quickly in this year, I was like, I may have overestimated. Now I look at them, to me, they look like if Tatum doesn't come back, and this is what they're going to be, they look like a 38 or 39 win team to me, which is right on the line between lottery and play-in, which is honestly what I think they are. The margin for error is so narrow for them. Like even a guy like Keita, who's playing pretty well, their rebounding has gotten much better. They're now middle of the pack. They're 14th in the league in rebound differential. So the rebounding's gotten better, but he can't stay on the floor. As I mentioned, he's averaging, per 48 minutes, he's averaging more than 6 fouls a game, which means that basically means like if you played 48 minutes, you would foul out of every single game. He's averaging 6.5 fouls per 48 minutes. When I look at it overall, I just think they have such a small margin for it. And I also was expecting more out of Anthony Simons. I think part of that is him. Part of that is Joe, who I think has to
Doesn't
accept.
play him enough.
Speaking of sort of what we were just talking about with Chris, like Anthony Simons is a flawed player. He's not very good on defense. On the other hand, he has a skill set and some things that you need that can help you. So you have to, as a coach, find a way to maximize his strengths and try and minimize his weaknesses to ultimately help out the team. You can't, there's too many nights for me where it's just like, well, Anthony Simons isn't a great defender. Derrick White doesn't have it going at all, but we're just going to stick Derrick White out here.
B-Rob, where are you? Did your expectations change or you've been pretty much set where you were prior to the season tipping off?
It's pretty much set right now, but the next 10 games is going to tell the story. Like they're 8-8 right now. They should be 10-6. Based on their expected metrics. They're 10th in offense, 11th in defense, and they've blown games in crunch time. The Nets game, for as bad as it was, that was their first real no-show of the year. And so I'll give them a mulligan on that in 16 games here. Like, yeah, they got their doors blown off by the Rockets, but that was like 5th game in 7 nights against a team that they're not going to have a chance against on a good night. So, but now you have no gimmies coming up. You're still healthy. Joe Mazzulla should have figured things out with the rotation at this point. You know what you have in some of these wings. We'll figure out what they are. If this is a 2-8, 3-7 stretch, then I think we know what direction this season's going in, what direction Brad Stevens will probably go in with the roster. But if they can stay afloat and show some fight like they did after that 0-3 start, then I think playing or above is still in play.
All right, you want to weigh in? We got one more segment to go on the Celtics, 617-779-0985. Wrap things up next.
We'll have more of the Sports Hub Celtics show next.
Ash Caring.
Chris Gasper, Big Jim Murray, the Sports Hub Celtics show.
Jaylen floats it to Derrick White. Knifes through 2 guys. Return to Jaylen Brown. Checks his feet. Up fakes a 3. Drives past Porter. Runs it to Clowney. Forces it up and in. Muscles 2 points.
Well, the strength that he has in his upper body.
11 apiece for Pritchard and Jaylen Brown.
What is this music? It's like we just took a vortex to hell. Oh, my God. Well, that was the Drive to the Rim brought to you by your New England Chevy dealers and the Chevy Silverado, where dependability comes standard. Let's take a call from Ed in Woburn. Says here Brad Stevens is who he wants to talk about. Hello, Ed.
Hello. Chris.
Yes.
Well, I don't understand what the plan was with this team. Like, I know they wanted to get out of the first and second apron. I just don't get the roster. I don't get why House is on this team at $10 million. I'm just very confused what the plan was. Is it really just to kind of screw over Jaylen Brown? Because if I was Jaylen Brown, I'd be pretty aggravated with the cast. It's not bad enough to be a top 10 lottery team. It's not good enough really to be in the playoffs. I don't know what Felger's how he comes with the top 4 team. I really don't understand the approach. They've never explained it. I'm just confused by what they are doing this season. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing I think was getting under that second apron is big for them to have the flexibility. I do agree with you on the way you're describing the roster, though. It's like they are ultimately stuck in sort of this parquet purgatory, and the team is not bad enough to really move them forward with the lottery pick. It's not good enough to make the. It's pretty much just good enough for Jaylen Brown to have his name ruined, to be honest, by not taking the team to the playoffs. Beer, I don't know how you feel. I mean, I think they were thinking, look, they had to have some low-cost options on this team for obvious reasons. Simons is a guy I believe they had to take back, and I actually thought Brad did a pretty good job getting him back in the deal because Drew Holiday was a salary dump, so you had to take that back for money. When you look,
I'm just confused by what they are doing this season. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing I think was getting under that second apron is big for them to have the flexibility. I do agree with you on the way you're describing the roster, though. It's like they are ultimately stuck in sort of this parquet purgatory, and the team is not bad enough to really move them forward with the lottery pick. It's not good enough to make the. It's pretty much just good enough for Jaylen Brown to have his name ruined, to be honest, by not taking the team to the playoffs. Beer, I don't know how you feel. I mean, I think they were thinking, look, they had to have some low-cost options on this team for obvious reasons. Simons is a guy I believe they had to take back, and I actually thought Brad did a pretty good job getting him back in the deal because Drew Holiday was a salary dump, so you had to take that back for money. When you look at the roster, the pieces don't really fit because I think they're hoping that they hit on some of these. They're kind of like people who are panning for gold. They're trying to sift through and see, okay, what's just silt, what's just dirt, what's just detritus, and is there actually some gold here that we can use down the line?
Yeah, they're taking a few lottery tickets here. And I don't know, the big man situation is the one where you just look at what they have right now. Nimi has played, I think, as well as anyone could have hoped, given the circumstances. But then Garza, he works hard, but that's defensively
he's been better than I thought. To be honest,
but defensively, like, you look at the on-off numbers, it's just like it's not. Yeah. He doesn't hold up there.
I know.
Tillman does not play anymore. Boucher looked good in the preseason, but he's been buried too. So it's like it's the worst big man rotation in the league, and we're seeing it on nights like that, and they can't lift up things when Derrick White and Peyton Pritchard don't have a goal.
So I know I brought up the idea of like, hey, should they have drafted Kyle Filipowski last year? Mm-hmm. Someone emailed me and brought up a good point here that I didn't realize. Ryan Kalkbrenner, who's actually doing pretty well for sure. Was that their pick?
That was one after their pick.
One after their pick. So they could have had Ryan.
Yes,
they just need some more serviceable bigs. That does seem to be a little bit of an area where maybe, with the benefit of hindsight, which is always easy, if you're Brad, you look at it and say, okay, maybe we should have taken a flyer in the draft on one of these young bigs in the second round just to see if something happens.
It's not a surprise they need a big, though. Like, that's like both these last 2 years. Like, we've seen this problem coming down the pike. Like, Al Horford was 38, 39. Whether he was going to be here or not, you needed young bigs.
All right, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on this. And here's a APB to anyone. Are you a server somewhere in the Seaport? Contessa, Mastro's, Row 34, or anything like that? And did Michael Porter Jr. come into your restaurant last night? And did he leave you a terrible tip?
Oh, boy. Uh-oh.
This clip made me so mad. And then, of course, he goes off in the win for the Brooklyn Nets last night, 32 points.
Scored the last 14 points.
Yeah. Oh, no. And him going off like that, and everyone is just like, oh, this a-hole. If you haven't seen or heard this clip yet, I mean, the internet now exists just to infuriate. But this one sent me through the roof. Because there's few things I hate more than like cheapskates, especially when you, like Michael Porter Jr., make $38 million for this season. Over $38 million is Michael Porter Jr.'s salary. And he had the balls to say this on the Ball in the Family podcast, when girls were girls and men were men. Like, it's a Lonzo Ball podcast. Oh. But here's them talking about tipping.
Is tipping culture out of control?
Depends who you ask. If I'm at a restaurant, I'll leave a little tip. If you're spending $3K on a meal, you shouldn't have to tip $600, to me.
That was Michael Porter Jr. If you're spending $3,000 on a meal, you shouldn't have to tip $600. And look, I get it. People have tip fatigue. I have tip fatigue. I will tell you, like, if I go to a place and I get something, and I'm picking it up, I'm putting in the work, it's my gas money, and then you flip the little iPad towards me and it says tip, I will 99.9% of the time hit no tip. You've done nothing. But if I get beers at the Garden, 20%. I'm a baseline 20% guy.
Okay.
Outside of you spitting in my face,
including
as a server.
the tax, because you know how
I don't. It's 20%. You're getting 20% from me. I pride myself on a good tipper. I've been a server. I think everyone should do that for a living at some point,
Yes.
so you can understand just how horrible society is, and you understand how you learn a lot about people as a server.
Okay.
It is, and Lord knows with this business, I'll be doing it again someday. 20%, I'm a baseline 20%. This guy, if I'm not I get it, it's out of control, but I don't get people who hate rich people just because, I'm not one of those people, but F you sideways if you're this cheap and you talk about not tipping. Dude, you make over $38 million just this year. And for you to get all uppity and I don't see the point of tipping $600 on a $3,000 meal. What an a-hole. What an a-hole. Oh, that's dude, you're such a cheap scumbag. Come on. Why would you say that in public? How can you show your face after saying that? Oh, this clip made me so mad, Chris.
It just shows how disconnected he is from reality on two fronts. One, he's like, if you're dropping $3K on a meal, it's like, who can drop $3K on a meal?
No, that too.
And then, so, it's like, okay, every man Michael Porter Jr. here. And then also the other side of it is like, okay, now you're saying, I'm going to drop $3K, so I'm not going to tip. I don't like that. I think you should. Now, here's what I will say, and this is not a defense of Michael Porter Jr. This is sort of tip fatigue in general. I think, and I do tip, but it's sort of become this thing that tipping should be, relative to, like you said, the baseline, the service being, good. But I also feel like there's an expectation you're going to give a tip no matter what. Even if the service isn't good. People still expect the 20% tip. The tip to me, this is what I'm trying to say, and maybe this will make me sound like an a-hole. The tip to me is something that on some level has to be earned.
Oh, sure.
It's not something that, and I feel like we've gotten to a point where people feel like it's an automatic. It should just be given. It still has to be earned by baseline quality service.
Yeah. Oh, I'll scale down a little if it's bad. But I usually wouldn't go less than 15%.
No, I agree. I agree on that.
Oh, but you can lose points. This is what you're saying.
But I think people get mad about that, and from where we are as a culture now. And the other element I'll say about this, again, not a defense of Michael Porter Jr., but I know tipping is kind of a uniquely American thing.
Well, yeah, because we don't pay restaurant servers enough. It's their going salary or their going hourly rate is $2.35,
which is not enough.
That's stupid.
But it's like you go to Europe, you go to other places, you don't.
Yeah, you don't.
I mean, if you tip 10%, they think you're like you walk on water.
Yeah. Well, either way, I didn't like that clip. But no, you could lose. I will say, even though I say I'm baseline 20%,
okay.
There was this one time I went to this pizza place. And the kid who was, we sat at the bar, the dude who was our server, but also the bartender, we sat at a high top.
Okay.
Was so hungover. He was, and then when the pizzas came, he put them on the bar. And he looked at us, and I go, "Oh, I'm supposed to get those?" And he just hung his head down "Oh, I had too much last night." And then I thought, I'm like, well, you're going to get $3 on this. It was, what an a-hole. But, you can lose. You can lose money like that. But if you're spending $3,000 on a dinner and you're going to bitch about a $600 tip, man, that's scumbaggery.
No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you.
And go on a podcast and talk proudly about it? Wow, what an a-hole. Okay,
yeah.
I had to play that clip because it really went.
That wasn't even the worst clip from that. Did you hear about how they went in on the WNBA?
Yeah. There was all that. Not a podcast for me, but the good thing about one of the good things about the internet is you can now get things in clip form, so I don't have to sit there and listen to.
Well, I'm
Ball
now,
in the family.
I can't take credit for this because someone just DM'd me this on X, but yeah, I am now waiting for the Michael Porter Jr. out with food poisoning on the NBA injury report. It is inevitable.
All right, we'll get to the final hour of Gasper Murray after the headlines here. If you want to join us on anything, 617-779-09.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.